Good morning. Welcome to the Florida Friendly Landscaping Programs homeowner webinar. Your eyes are not deceiving you. You are in the right place. I am not your usual host. Jen Marvin is feeling a little under the weather this morning, but I'm Rebecca Clapp and I work with Jen. I'm usually host behind the scenes, so you may have seen me answering some of your questions or providing some links in the chat or heard some people who maybe have had problems calling out my name to help fix things, but I am your fill-in host for today, just until Jen feels better. But I'm so happy to have you all here with us today. We're going to wait for everybody to kind of come and join in and get settled in, but I did want to ask you to please fill in the chat box what county you're from. And then today our topic is we're talking about green stormwater infrastructure for homeowners. So why don't you tell me your favorite animal, your favorite wildlife to see around your pond? Lord knows that there are plenty of stormwater ponds all over Florida. So there's something ridiculous, like 76,000, I think, last check. But I'm sure our presenter will be able to tell us more about how many stormwater ponds we have across Florida. But my favorite animals to see are the turtles. When I walk my golden retriever, she always thinks that the turtles are trying to be her friends. She wants to give them a little kiss. And I also love to see some gray herons that kind of hang out around the edge of the ponds. So those are my favorite animals. I hope you guys have some favorite wildlife that you like to see near yours. Did want to mention a couple of other things just while we're waiting for everyone to join and giving everyone a chance to answer that question in the chat box. The Florida Friendly Landscaping Program is also doing an awards program, and it's open now for entry. So we're looking for submissions from those of you with some great Florida Friendly yards. If your community, your HOA has some great Florida Friendly landscaping, we'd love to see that. I'm going to put a link in the chat once we get started so that everyone can take a look at that. And you can find the entry form on the homepage and submit your entry to win. There are a bunch of different categories. So there's lots of opportunities, and it's a great, wonderful way to get recognized for the hard work that you do in your landscape and how you keep it looking great. So the deadline for submission is September 15th, and the awards will be presented at the Master Gardener Conference this year in October. So I will go ahead and throw that in the chat in just a minute. I also wanted to handle a couple of housekeeping things while we're getting everybody kind of into the webinar. You'll notice when you joined that your microphones have been muted and the cameras are off. The chat box is open for now, so you can answer that question about what county you're from and what your favorite wildlife or animal to see around your stormwater pond. But once we get started with the presentation, we will go ahead and close that chat box down and ask you to put your questions in the Q&A box. We'll get to those questions after the presentation is done, and we'll kind of go through them all. So don't worry, we will get to your questions for sure. Also, at the end of the presentation, please do take a moment to complete that really brief survey that pops up. That's really helpful to us. It lets us know what you learned, what you liked, and what topics you want to learn more about in the future. So that's really, really helpful for us if you'll just take a quick moment, super brief. The Florida Friendly Landscaping Webinar Homeowner Series is presented every third Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. So there's many more topics to come. I know in November, there is an Ask an Expert. That's the topic for November. So if you have questions, you can submit them ahead of time. And Jen's going to pull that panel together and have a whole bunch of experts that are going to give you advice and answer all those burning questions we haven't been able to get to. All right, I think everybody is kind of getting settled. So we'll give it a couple more minutes. Ooh, spoonbills. Somebody mentioned their favorite animal was spoonbills to see. It's a good one. They're beautiful. Manatees in your stormwater ponds. Okay. Stormwater is the intercoastal. Okay, that makes sense now. I was like, If you got a manatee in your stormwater pond, we got problems. But okay, so it's getting on about 5 minutes, so I think everybody's pretty much settled. As I mentioned today, we're talking about green stormwater infrastructure for homeowners, and our presenter is Claire Lewis, the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program Director. So we are extremely privileged to have Claire with us today. We appreciate her taking time out of her busy day. Claire graduated from the University of Florida with a master's in landscape architecture and spent 12 years working for private landscape architecture firms in Gainesville. Her designs included large-scale commercial developments and institutional and residential home sites. But Claire's current job as director means that she is working for the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program, which is a partnership between UF-IFAS and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. She teaches science-based management practices to homeowners and landscaping professionals, and these practices save water, reduce fertilizer and pesticide use, and save money by preventing surface and groundwater contamination. So Claire, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm also really excited to talk about green stormwater infrastructure, something very near and dear to my heart. And we've been working a lot on developing the green stormwater infrastructure resources for the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of those resources with you too at the end of this presentation. Looking through the chat, it was exciting to see all the different animals people were mentioning. I saw a lot of birds being very popular, and otters and turtles. I did not see any alligators, so I guess that's not very surprising, but it was really fun to see and then to think about all the habitat that that stormwater pond edge provides, and green stormwater infrastructure can provide the same kind of habitats as well. So as we go through this, we'll talk about the different types of green stormwater infrastructure and how you can implement them on a residential scale. So let's just jump right into it. And I think to start off with, we need to talk about, how we end up with some of the problems that we have. And so this slide is an example on the left-hand side of an undeveloped natural Florida habitat. So this is a lot before any development happens. And, the first thing that we do when we start to develop a property is, we clear it. And we remove the shrubs and the trees, and we end up scraping a lot of the dirt as well. So after it's cleared, then we, go ahead and we dig the stormwater pond is usually the next thing up. And we use that dredge that we pull out of the ground, and we use that to build up and elevate the roads and the foundation of the home sites that are going to be built. And this dirt that comes out from deep underground is not very fertile. So, we're not working with, really, primo quality soil here. It's more kind of just, sand that's pretty sterile. So next, we have the site platted and get it ready for development. And then you can see that here we've got our curb and gutters, we've got sidewalks and ready to go. And then we have, the finished home. The building process is not always conducive for landscape and plant material as it is for building houses. So the soil is often builder sand and fill material that, like I mentioned earlier, that doesn't have a lot of, microorganisms and nutrients in it. And it definitely it's the type of sand that plants don't typically like to grow in. The soils are also often compacted due to the construction activities. So none of these are really ideal for growing plants, as I mentioned. Next, we're going to talk about conventional stormwater systems. They're designed to reduce flooding. So as you can see in the image on the left, the arrows indicate the direction of the water. So you'll see it's being directed between the houses into the roadside gutters, then funnel the water to the stormwater drain. From there, the water is piped into a large stormwater pond to hold and hopefully treat that water before it's discharged off-site. The image on the right illustrates an alternative approach to stormwater management. In this approach, the water is decentralized to hold and treat stormwater close to where it's originated. These are not actually wet ponds in the green, but they're shallow depressions that can be turf or they can be planted as rain gardens. But the advantage of these open drainage systems is that they cost considerably less than conventional curb and gutter basins design, and they provide a better water quality treatment. This is an illustration of what I just spoke about, is a typical stormwater management system. The water is funneled to a storm drain through curb and gutters, and from there it's piped to the nearest water body and discharged without any treatment. And this is very typical throughout the state. I'm going to show a short video that explains non-point source pollution.
If stormwater pollution was rubber duckies, it wouldn't matter what went down the storm drains. But it does.
Sorry about that.
Because stormwater pollution is not rubber duckies.
Sorry.
It's soil, trash, oil, cigarette butts, and pet waste flowing untreated into our water. That's not good for any of us, because we all live downstream. Clean water starts with you.
I think that's a great video just to talk about, give a good overview of what non-point source pollution is and what it is that we're trying to accomplish by these green stormwater infrastructure systems. So green stormwater infrastructure is also known as GSI. So if I refer to it as GSI, that's what I'm talking about. And it can be used to supplement or replace our traditional gray stormwater infrastructure systems. And gray stormwater infrastructure, everything's like, catch basins and gutters and storm drains, things like that. So green stormwater infrastructure would be nature-based solutions. And we're going to go through and talk about some different types of nature-based solutions. The GSI reduces the pollution and it treats the stormwater by retaining the rainfall near its source instead of directing it to a centralized point or treatment system. So now I'm going to talk about some residential scale drainage issues, and hopefully these will give you some ideas and guidance if you have these types of issues in your communities, or you'll know where to reach out for more information. So residential design issues can include things like standing water, soggy areas, and misdirected water downspouts. Swales are an alternative to the curb and gutter system. I think most people are familiar with swales. They can't be used everywhere because of lack of available space and density, but they're a great way to slow the flow of stormwater and allow that water to soak into the ground. They treat the runoff by allowing suspended solids and impurities to settle out of the stormwater before it reaches the water source. And they are just really a great way to, move water and have it infiltrate. However, swales are generally in the common areas of a community, and they are usually the responsibility of the CDD or the HOA. But maintenance is essential to ensure a swale functions properly over time. Maintenance suggestions include removing trash and debris, dead plant material and sediments, repairing any erosion issues that come up, restoring the percolation rate if needed. And to do this, you can disc, till, or aerate the bottom of the swale, and that'll really help the percolation. You want to maintain swale blocks, outlets, and pavement. You want to check for erosion, and any kind of structural integrity issues that might come up. When you mow a swale, you want to keep that grass a little longer than what you'd keep your normal lawn in your front yard and your landscape. You want to keep it to about 3 to 5 inches long. And you also want to prune any vegetation as needed in those swales. Misdirected downspouts is another issue that we see, and this can be water directed to the driveway or over the walkway. Water flowing over the entry sidewalk is not ideal. It gets unsightly and slippery, which is a hazard. You can see this is a new home, and it's already discoloring that sidewalk. So you can imagine how slippery that might be. Water directed towards the driveway will also have these same issues, but it also adds pollution. The polluted water being directed and discharged directly into our storm drains, because if it's flowing over the driveway, there's no treatment involved. It's just picking up more pollutants on the way. So the better option is to direct the water to a pervious area where it can be allowed to infiltrate into our groundwater. And I'll talk about some ways that we can do that. It can be done with downspout extenders. These are simple and easy for anyone to do themselves. You can buy the extender at your local box store and attach it to the end of your downspout. So you can just curve that around and put it into your landscape bed. They're flexible and they can be directed wherever you want them. And another option is to have an extender with holes like this one up top here. This helps to diffuse the water so you don't get any erosion from it. And it also it rolls back up when when there's no water in it, so it gets out of the way. But one thing you want to keep in mind with these downspout extenders is you want to extend them at least 2 feet from the foundation of the home, because we don't want any standing water or, by the foundation of your house. Dry wells are also a good solution for when you don't have much space. They're pretty easy for a do-it-yourself project. They slow the water so it can infiltrate. They can be placed at the end of a downspout to catch that extra water. And the size is really determined by the amount of water and the percolation rate of the soil. So we have some documents that can help, calculate that. But sandy soil generally has a really high percolation rate, so a small well should be adequate. And most of Florida has sandy soils. If you do have clay soils, you may just need a bigger well to use to install. What you do is you dig the hole about 2 times the size of the well and 6 inches deeper. You want to line that hole with a landscape fabric to prevent soil from clogging the stones around the dry well. And then you want to add 6 inches at the bottom. You set the well in there, make sure it's level with the surrounding grade, and then you fill in all around that with a rock, like what they're doing here. And then you put the lid on the well, and then you cover all that up with rock. So this is the end product, looks something like that. So I think they're quite attractive, and definitely something I think most people could do on their own, or with the help of a strong teenager. To add on to this, you can add a pop out when there's more water than the dry well can handle. And this really starts to make it part of a larger connected system. One of the benefits is that when it's not in use, these pop outs, they close and they prevent small animals and debris from getting into those drains. They use hydrostatic pressure, so no power is needed to operate it. But you really need a natural slope in order for these to be effective. So what you do is you simply add a pipe to your catch basin, and you install the pop out at the end. And you want to make sure that that discharge point is at least 10 feet and at a lower elevation than the foundation of the house. So you can see here's one, installed in the grass, and these are just diagrams of how they connect to the dry wells. Still pretty, pretty manageable for most people to install themselves. And next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another short video segment, and it's from the TV show that we've been involved with, Flip My Florida Yard. We're going to talk about the benefits of rain barrels. So let's see if I can get this one going. There.
Florida-friendly landscaping principle number 2 is to water efficiently. And principle number 8 is to reduce stormwater runoff. The magic of a rain barrel? Well, it addresses both of these principles. What's the value of a rain barrel? Why have a rain barrel?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so we're in South Florida. and we get on average 55 to 60 inches of rain.
Wow, a lot of rain.
Free water.
Yeah. And this is going to even reduce stormwater runoff. We're going to keep some of this water on property here, correct?
Absolutely. The yard is the first line of defense for protecting our natural resources. So you want to make sure that you recharge and it stays within our landscapes. This is a wonderful way to tell that water where to go, capture it, and be part of the solution.
Well, let's talk about this barrel because we kind of recycled some pavers that Melissa had in the backyard. So you obviously want to build it up some. Why do we want this rain barrel up?
You want to have some gravity feed from it. If you have a watering can, you want to make sure you get to it. So you want to have at least that 24-inch. Because once this little baby gets full of water, it's going to weigh 450 pounds.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. And that's going to happen pretty quick, isn't it?
It does. It happens very quick.
Typically, we're working with a home that has a gutter system where we can divert that water through the gutter system into the barrel. Melissa's house doesn't have a gutter system, so we're doing something a little bit different to get that water in the rain barrel. Lauren, what are we doing?
We're doing something as simple as adding a rain chain.
Okay.
For those folks that don't have a gutter, that's the simplest thing that you can do to still be able to capture the water and tell it where you want it to go. Anyone can use a rain chain and the rain barrel. It's very simple. In fact, Extension provides workshops and trainings on how to get one and install one.
I've gone ahead and already installed a hook right into the fascia board. You have to hold on to me because I'm going to go up there.
Go
I might
for
not
it.
come down, okay?
So we're going to test the weight here.
Test the weight. Here we go. I'm going up.
Go for it. Go for it. I got you.
Oh, God, I got it.
Yes.
Let's test it.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. Let me get a hose.
Go for it. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Now it's working. So that's diverting that water. It's going to take it right down in that barrel.
Very easy.
We're rain chaining.
It's really fun to watch it.
It is fun to watch it, but you know what?
We're soaked.
We're soaked. We're soaked.
Visit FloridaFriendlyLandscaping.com to start learning today.
I love.
So I think they did a great job of showing, how to use rain barrels, that you can paint them and make them look pretty. And, that they're really easy to install, and then you can use that water to, irrigate your landscape. So, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about rain gardens, and they're really great for low spots in the yard that tend to hold water already. Those spots, that are low and soggy, they tend to be hard to maintain. So the rain garden can, certainly act to help, keep that water in sight and also make it be a little more attractive in the landscape. So rain gardens treat, filter, and allow the water to infiltrate into the ground slowly. I keep saying that, right? And but that infiltration is what helps to remove the pollutants from our stormwater runoff and also getting into our aquifer and our drinking water. So rain gardens should include plants that can tolerate short-term flooding as well as periods of drought. It's the plants that are really hardy and can withstand, a whole lot of different conditions. But luckily, we have plants that can do that in Florida. Some plants in Central Florida that can do that are canna lily, swamp sunflower, swamp hibiscus, aster, fakahatchee grass. And we have different lists for different parts of the state. And if you ever have any questions, I would really suggest reaching out to your local county extension office, and they can help you with plant selections for that. Permeable pavers are a great solution for high traffic areas. They allow for infiltration between the gaps in the pavement. And depending on what type of paver you choose, you can fill it with stones or plant material such as grasses. And the pavers need to be set on a bed of graded base material, and that's what allows the infiltration to happen. So you have a base material, you have a sand layer, and then you have the pavers on top of that, and that allows the water to have some place to go and slowly infiltrate into the ground. I've got another video for you. It's a short one, but I really love how it shows how permeable these pavers can be.
Quickly water absorbs into the soil, it's easy to understand the importance of the Florida-friendly principle, fertilize appropriately. All right, unleash it. Wow, look at that. It's all gone.
It can be thousands of inches an hour. You can put 5 times the amount of area can drain to a permeable pavement area because it's so pervious. It can take water so quickly and then allow it to drain into
And yeah, the purpose of that video is really just so you could see how quickly that water absorbed into the ground beneath it. They also have pavers that the pavers themselves are permeable. So it can either go in between the pavers, or if you purchase the pavers that are permeable, then it'll actually drain right through the pavers itself. But in addition to pavers, there's permeable concrete and asphalt. And you may have seen this in, some parking lots, because it's really great for high traffic areas. As I mentioned, parking lots and driveways, even walking trails. You'll see the application of permeable asphalt quite a bit. So I'm going to show this short clip too. And it just shows the permeable.
It's a pleasure to be here today to help.
And to me, that just, it's almost, it's just so exciting to see that and realize that we do have some, some options through technology to help deal with our stormwater, so we can, on larger projects like that, we have different resources available to us. So in the new construction that we see today, there's a lot of zero lot lines and, houses being built very close together. And we'll see the swale in between the houses. You may have this in your community, or if not, I'm sure you see it, you've seen it in action in other places. But it really creates a difficult situation to maintain, because you've got a lot of water coming off, both roofs, and then you also have a lot of shade. So it's not conducive to growing grass very well. So it can be, quite a challenge. So some things that we recommend for these areas, in areas less than 5 feet that are wet, you can turn off one side of the irrigation, or you can cap every other head to reduce overwatering. So that would, if you have enough sunlight and just too much water, that's one aspect that you can do. Otherwise, if there's too much shade, you can try an alternative ground cover, such as the one they have in this picture, or you can incorporate hardscape elements like the picture at the top, which still allow for infiltration, but it looks very attractive and it's very functional as well. So those are some options. And next we're going to touch on stormwater ponds. So since 1982, Florida statutes have required that rainfall landing on all new constructed impervious sites, so those are rooftop, streets, and parking lots, etc. It must be treated before the rainwater leaves the site. And the pollutants in these waters include things like heavy metals, fertilizers, pesticide, trash, bacteria, sediment, things like that. And these are the biggest sources of water quality problems for the state. New developments are required to treat that runoff, and this may be accomplished through several means, but the most common method is still large stormwater ponds. And I think Becky mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, there are over 76,000 stormwater ponds in the state and growing probably every day. So stormwater ponds are here to stay. And next, we're going to talk about some, different, I don't want to say issues, but some different issues surrounding stormwater ponds. And they can be defined as either retention or detention ponds. Dry detention ponds typically allow the water to infiltrate into the soil. And so that's the picture on the left. And you'll see these pretty commonly. And in contrast, the detention ponds capture stormwater runoff and store it before releasing it downstream, but they will stay wet. So retention is dry and detention is wet. But the function of stormwater ponds is really to prevent flooding, and less so to treat stormwater runoff. But what it does do is it allows those particulates to settle at the bottom of the pond rather than running off site. So they collect and they retain, and then should there be a large storm event, they release it downstream. Otherwise, it will just infiltrate and hold. There is an issue with here that hopefully you haven't had to deal with, but residents want green lawns and blue lakes, and often those two things can compete with each other. The more the landscape is fertilized and irrigated, the more nutrients end up in the pond, creating poor water quality. So how can we balance these aesthetics with good water quality? And that's really the question. And we'll go ahead and take a look at each one of these three issues that I have up here on the screen. So as I mentioned, first of all, everybody wants a green lawn, and everyone wants to live on a lake. And you can see on this image that there are 21 homes that are directly impacting each of these lakes. And remember that the whole community is designed to drain into these lakes. So everything that is not being used by the landscapes end up in here. And then next, everybody wants blue water in their lakes, like these pictures. It's beautiful, right? The problem is most Floridians don't live on a lake. They live on a stormwater pond. And this is a beautiful stormwater pond, and I'd be really happy to live on this. And I'm sure there's a lot of wildlife that we mentioned earlier that are attracted to this pond as well. So there's real benefits to this pond, you know, flooding, habitat, and, you know, aesthetic. So. But next, I don't think anybody wants to live on this stormwater pond. We know the inputs are contributing to poor water quality and algal growth. So what can we do to prevent this from happening? And I'm going to go through some stormwater pond best management practices, or BMPs, that can help reduce the likelihood of your pond ending up looking like this. So many homeowners do not connect that their landscape design and maintenance practices to the problems in their stormwater ponds, but highly maintained lawns and direct discharge from stormwater into ponds cause much of the weedy growth in these ponds. One of the most important steps is to have a more attractive stormwater pond is to form a partnership with all the people in the community and learn as much as possible about your particular pond as you can. And if you use a company for pond maintenance, make sure to include this in the planning process. This is just something we were talking about even earlier today, how it really takes a whole community coming together and having a vision in order to, you know, properly maintain these ponds. One thing you can do to increase the length and life of your pond is to reduce your fertilizer inputs. And this helps to build up your pond's natural defenses. So some fertilizer BMPs are never fertilized before a heavy rain. Don't fertilize within 10 feet of any water body. Don't use weed and feed. Use a broadcast spreader with a deflector shield. Apply only when grass is actively growing, and always read and follow the fertilizer label. Source control, which is the reduction of fertilizer and pesticides, will always be the best defense, but pond edge plantings play a role as well. Installing a 10 to 20 foot buffer zone between landscape and shoreline can help. By absorbing nutrients before they enter the pond, it can provide habitat for wildlife, it can prevent erosion, and it can enhance the beauty of the pond. You may want to protect your view with low ground covers or breaks in the tall vegetation. And another thing to keep in mind is buffer and fertilizer requirements are variable per county specific ordinances. So be sure to check with your local county extension office before you, apply any fertilizer, for sure, before you plant or change anything on your bank. There are rules that pertain to a shoreline edge that are different from general landscape rules. But UFIFIS extension can help you with that. Aquatic plants can reduce shoreline erosion. So you want to try to aim for at least 1/3 of the pond to be maintained with a shallow littoral shelf and aquatic plants. So the littoral shelf would be this area right in here, where you can plant some plants. And also having a no-mow zone is also important for protecting erosion and also just protecting the pond itself, as I mentioned earlier. So the next slide, I really like this because I think it gives a really good example of the role of plants on a shoreline planting. So erosion on stormwater ponds is a really common issue, and you can see there's pretty significant erosion right here. But when plants are installed at the littoral zone, you can see the difference in how they are holding the soil to the edge and reducing erosion on the stormwater pond. So and just keep that in mind. There's a lot of good reasons to plant in that littoral zone. Aeration is another thing you can do to improve your ponds. Water exposed to air typically has a higher dissolved oxygen concentration, and that really is a benefit to the aquatic organisms, and it also aids in nutrient removal. So both the plants and the fish and other little organisms that are in that pond all really benefit from the dissolved oxygen. And a rule of thumb is ponds that are less than 8 feet deep can have a fountain to provide aeration. And if it's deeper than 8 feet, then you want to use a bottom diffuser or bubblers to create that aeration in the pond. And that can really extend the life of the pond. Some practical maintenance guidelines for stormwater ponds are removing debris, especially at the inflow and outflow of the ponds, and give special attention to the drains and drop boxes. This will reduce the amount of pollutants that the pond will have to remove. Inspect the entire stormwater system on an annual or semi-annual basis, and make brief inspection trips after each storm. Cleaning up debris is an important part of the inspection. Leaves, limbs, and other debris should be removed from the conveyance system. Make sure the discharge of your mower is not directed towards the pond. We see this so often. This will keep the grass cuttings out of the pond and will act as a buffer or no-mow zone that we talked about earlier. So these grass clippings, they contain nutrients when they break down. So you really want to keep them out of the pond. And leaves, here's an example with leaves in there. But stormwater ponds really need to be cleaned out periodically. And we have about every 25 years as a rule of thumb. And this keeps them functioning properly. Do you want to consult a professional for information on the methods that can be used for proper disposal of that dredged material? It's also very expensive. So doing these things that I mentioned earlier can prolong that need for dredging it. But eventually you are going to have to do that and plan for that in the future of your pond. And just keep in mind that an efficient functioning stormwater system takes as much time and effort as maintaining the rest of your landscape. So the ponds are a really important part of your community, and they do, require quite a bit of attention. And lastly, who is responsible for the pond? You need to know who's responsible for this, because it's typically the HOA, the CDD, or the property association. But in some areas, it can be the county or the municipality. So, check with your water management district, check with your HOA, and find out who is responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of your pond before making any changes. And next, I'm going to talk about some resources that we have available to you as you start this journey. Let's see. So the FFL program has an extensive amount of educational materials available to encourage more sustainable landscaping practices. The publications on this page are the foundation of the program. I want to click here. They have been rebranded. So if you were familiar with those other ones, this is what they look like now. Just know that they are, this is the updated version of our publications. And we have the Florida-friendly guide to plant selection and landscape design. This manual lists the FFL plants and their growing requirements, as well as some possible design solutions to common landscape issues. The Florida-friendly landscaping handbook for home landscape describes in detail the 9 principles of FFL and how to maintain a landscape for the home audience. This one's a mouthful. The Florida-friendly best management practices for protection of water resources by the green industries teaches those same 9 principles to the landscape professionals and the people who maintain commercial properties. So these publications are available free of charge and can be picked up at your local extension office or they can be ordered from the bookstore at UFIFES for a small shipping and handling fee. We also have developed several mobile web applications. So the Florida Friendly Landscaping Plant Guide is available online. The one that I just talked about in a manual form is available as an app, and it lists more than 400 Florida friendly plants. You can use this on your phone, your tablet, your home computer. But it's a really great resource to, to find the right plant for the right place. The FFL Butterfly Garden app provides host and nectar plants and sample planting designs for small, medium, and large butterfly gardens. There's also a bee app that's very similar to the butterfly app. We also created a Florida-friendly fertilizer app for professional maintenance personnel, and this helps them keep track of all the various city and county fertilizer ordinances. And we do that through using Google Maps to pinpoint the location of any fertilizer restrictions or requirements that are in place. And then lastly, we also have a toxic plant app that includes over 200 plants that can be filtered by whether it's toxic to people, pets, or livestock. And it can also be filtered by the symptoms of poisoning. So just know that these resources are available. You can find them on our website, and they're all free. And we really encourage you to try them out and use them. If I'm talking about Green Stormwater Infrastructure, I need to mention that we just finished pilot testing the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Maintenance Certification Program. There's a need for this certification as many cities and counties are installing large green stormwater infrastructure projects, and we want to make sure that they are being maintained properly so that they continue to function as they were designed to. So included in this program is a GSI maintenance manual, a plant selection tool, and a maintenance checklist for each type of GSI system. Here you can see this is an image of the manual, and these are some of the different GSI systems that are in that book. These can all be found on our website, and you can download them here. So this is the manual, this is the plant guide, all the different checklists, and then some different resources that we also have available for green stormwater infrastructure. We worked with the Department of Environmental Protection in developing the Florida GSI website. It offers general information, technical resources, and strategies for communicating GSI to local stakeholders, as well as case studies in this website. You can see the location of GSI projects and click on them to learn more. And in addition, the site has a printable and shareable content for downloading. So there's brochures, there's a presentation, and there's a non-point source pollution publication tool where you can generate your own, social media and flyers, things like that, promotional items from this publication tool. So you can find a link to that on our website that I just showed you. And we will also have a list of all those GSI maintenance certified professionals on our website. So if you're looking for one, you can find one. And I showed you a couple clips from our Flip My Florida Yard TV show. I get to say now that it's an Emmy-winning TV show. So we're very excited about it. We're just about to start on season 4. The show is focused around the 9 principles of FFL. And what we'll be doing on each episode is there'll be 2 mini flips, and we'll show 1 mature landscape. So it's a different format. If you've seen our show in the past, it's a little different format than what we've had in the past. And we're really excited to show real accessible and manageable do-it-yourself projects in these episodes. And as Becky mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we have our awards program that is up and taking applications until September 15th. Winners will be announced in October. And the goal of this program is really to highlight and celebrate the people and projects that are creating attractive and sustainable landscapes in Florida. The winners are showcased on our website and our social media posts. And we've used many of the images that we've received in our publications and things like that. So we really, really want to show great examples of Florida friendly. And I hope you'll consider applying. And with that, that's all I have to present today, and I can take some questions if we have any.
Absolutely, Claire. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I think you covered so many different topics, and we do have some questions for you. You probably addressed this, and I know you just recently mentioned having resources where people can find. It looks like we've got a question from Lisa who says, this might be addressed in the webinar, but what are good resources for learning about draining yards properly? I've heard of French drains and what professionals can help assess the property for drainage and grading solutions.
So we have several documents online in EDIS, and I do not have them compiled. But if you go to UF and then you type in EDIS, you can look for drainage solutions there. As far as French drains and I did not include French drains in this presentation. I was trying to focus more on what could be done on a homeowner basis. French drains, it's possible for a homeowner to do those, but a little more knowledge, on how to install those. And then what was the second part of that question?
If you're looking for what professionals can help assess properties for drainage, where can you go for professional help?
Yeah, and I would turn towards a landscape architect in your area to come out. They are very knowledgeable on, how to deal with drainage issues, and they would be your best resource for developing a plan. And maybe you could develop that plan with the help of a professional, and maybe you would be able to install some of it yourself. But I would definitely have someone who's knowledgeable in that to help you develop a plan.
Perfect. We've got a question that says, in Northport, most drains along streets are filled with grass and usually mowed. If we should keep mow clippings out of the storm drain, is there an alternative recommendation? And they said that they asked the local EPA office, who said that not mowing the grass in the drains will cause blockage.
Yeah, so it's a tricky situation. And so what exactly, like not mowing it at all will block it up. But mowing it too much, is a lot of debris in the storm drain. So we just recommend letting the grass grow longer, 5 to 7 inches, which isn't, too long, but will still keep the grass healthy. You could look at blowing the grass clippings out of there. I don't think anybody rakes anymore, but so they could blow the drain, the clippings out. A lot of times on swales, there will be a catch basin at the end with some kind of grate over it, or some kind of, filter over that input structure.
I miss raking, man. You used to get those really cool blisters like on your hands that people really knew that you like cared for your lawn. I don't feel like we have nearly enough instruments that give us blisters anymore to really show us that we suffered. But it says, can you provide some more information on treatment of runoff from new developments, and what is the new state statute?
So there is, thank you for bringing up the new state statute. There is a new state statute that that will require, I can't talk to the whole statute. What I can talk to is how it is impacting our program and the certification program that we're developing. So like I said, we have pilot tested that certification, and we are modifying it right now to meet those Florida Stormwater Association standards. So in the legislation, they wrote in that anyone who's maintaining a green stormwater infrastructure system will need to be either a professional engineer, working directly under a professional engineer, or have attended a certification program. And so we are working with FSA to develop that certification program, but they are basing a lot of the requirements off the checklist that Dr. Evan Bean developed when developing this certification. So that program will be, ready to address those issues when that takes effect, which is in, I believe it's April of next year of 2025. is when the certification requirement goes into effect.
Thank you, Claire. I don't know if this is true, but Kevin is asking, it seems that rain barrels can be a source for pests. Is there any truth to that? And if there is truth to it, is there anything we can do to kind of reduce access to that?
Yeah, so when you're building a rain barrel, thank you for that question. When you're building a rain barrel, you want to make sure that you have a screen over the opening where the water goes in so that you don't get as many mosquitoes. It really reduces the availability of mosquitoes to start in there. You can also use, what do they call them? I'm forgetting at the moment, but they're bits. They're little, I'm sure someone will put it in the
Oh,
chat.
like a dunk, right?
The little, and they have a dunk or the bits, and that will also prevent mosquitoes. And as long as you have a screen over it, you shouldn't get any other, critters getting in there. But a screen is very, very important over the hole.
Perfect. We've got a question about Flip Your Florida Yard. It says, when you work with flipping yards for your TV show, do you develop a water budget to compare the before and after water use?
We do not do that. And, one of the problems on evaluating the landscapes after we flip them is, as soon as you put in a new landscape, you are going to have an increased water demand, because any new installation really does require an establishment period. So in a lot of the homes, this third season, we didn't use any irrigation. So there was, really nothing to compare it to. So we haven't gotten the data from our Flip My Florida Yard on water savings as much as we have more just how it's impacted people's lives, how people's lives have improved by having really nice outdoor spaces that they can enjoy.
And also preventing that runoff, right? I know you guys have done a bunch of episodes around in coastal areas, kind of preventing, setting up those plantings near stormwater ponds or near intercoastal waterways and things like that.
Yeah, we have. And one story I like to tell on that is that we did one flip along a stormwater pond. And then we went back a year later, and when we went back, we saw that the neighbors had also planted along their shoreline, or at least enforced that 10-foot no-mow buffer, which was fantastic. That's exactly what we want to see, is for people to share the information they have with their neighbors. And, what we've seen in our research is that that's how people really start to change their behavior, is by listening to people like you who are talking to their neighbors and implementing these practices more so than even, talking to, coming to a webinar. So it's the work that you guys are doing in your own homes that make a big impact.
And speaking of irrigation, Claire, are there any FFL options that offer no irrigation or super low irrigation for people who are interested in sort of that water conservation aspect of FFL?
I'm sorry, I was reading one of the questions. I missed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I was just asking a follow-up question to the previous question, which was, if someone is looking for like no irrigation options, does FFL have a certification or an option for someone who's looking for no or extremely low or no irrigation options?
Absolutely. So we have just launched a FFL Natural program, and that's really to highlight people who have an ultra low input landscape. So no permanent in-ground irrigation use, no fertilizer, and pest management is really IPM, just only as necessary. So FFL Natural is a great new option we have. There's information on that on our website if you want to learn more. And even, FFL gold recognition is also, we encourage people to use smart irrigation and really water conservation in FFL gold as well.
Perfect. There's a question about clarification. It says, I believe if you stated not to plant in swales, but would planting in swales be helpful in neighborhoods to help slow the water flow? So can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, if I said not to plant in swales, that would be misspeaking. The problem with planting in swales is usually a code involved that will not allow that. Not that it's not good, because basically, if you plant your swale, that's like a bioswale, so it will function well with those plants uptaking the nutrients. But a lot of times you're going to run into code that will not allow you to plant that. So it's working with your HOA or with your, local government to make sure that you can actually plant. Some people can. It's variable.
Excellent. Another question about the swale is from Wendy, and she's asking, should we also not fertilize our swale in the front of our yards?
Absolutely. Please don't fertilize that swale in the front of the yard. I'm really glad you asked that question. That's something where, just by where they are and the fact that water is draining towards them, they are going to be collecting nutrients from the runoff that they receive. So we definitely don't want to add more. Usually it's going to be bahia in those swales. They don't need additional fertilization for bahia, and we definitely don't want to be doing that.
Excellent. And Brian is asking, when a stormwater retention pond is dug, what keeps the water level maintained?
When the stormwater retention is dug, what keeps the water level maintained? Sometimes they line those ponds, depending on, it just depends on if there's clay there or, they do line some.
Looking through, is there a best type of grass to use for along the edges? Or I'm assuming this relates to what we've been talking about with GSI. Is there a best type of grass?
Well, there's several. There's some really great options, and those you can find on the website in that plant selection book, and then also in the manual. So there's a plant selection guide that goes into detail what each type of plant, where on the slope you can plant it, what it's good for, if it's good for rain gardens, if it's good for bioswales, what type of GSI system that it's good for. And then also what types of maintenance is required for that plant. And then in the manual, there's a general list where you can just look at some common plants that are used in that system. So both of those working together are a great way to find plants. And there's a variety of grasses, from Fakahatchee to muley to not crown grass anymore, but there are a number of different grasses that can grow in these systems and look really good.
Fantastic. That's great to know. So we should keep hope alive. Lorraine is saying that our soil is predominantly clay. So what can we plant around stormwater ponds to help reduce erosion in that kind of environment?
Lorraine, that's really hard to answer for me right now, because I don't know what part of the state you're in or things like that. So I would refer you to your local extension office to determine what would be the best plants. And if y'all do not use your local extension office, I would highly encourage you to. We like to say that extension is the best kept secret. But we don't want it to be. So, they are there to help you, and their services do not cost anything. So you can call a help desk, and a master gardener volunteer has a list of plants that are, very well adapted to your county and your county's soils.
Excellent. Couple of questions about Flip My Florida Yard. They're disappointed that the application process is closed for season 4, but it is closed. I'm sorry. And then you can find all of the episodes that are available that are currently out on the FFL YouTube channel. You can find additional clips from there and additional resources. And season 3, we are premiering those episodes of Flip My Florida Yard season 3 for the next couple of weeks on the FFL YouTube channel. So if you don't have that, I will put that link in the chat so everyone can take a look at that. But it's very exciting. If you haven't seen all the episodes, you can watch them there. Let me find that link real quick. I'm trying to see if there's another question that the new style book. Claire, is there somewhere we can find the new style book? That resources, do you have that link? Even if you just pull it back up from your slide, if you've got that. And I will find the link to the FFL.
Let's see if I can find that. Here, can you see this webpage that I just opened? Or is it not showing it?
It's not showing it. It's just showing your.
Okay, let me get that and
Okay, and here is the link to the FFL YouTube channel. So you can check out all of the episodes of Flip My Florida Yard. I think that's about it, Claire. Was there anything else?
just, my contact information is up there. And if I didn't answer your question fully, please reach out to me and I can do some more research. I can find out more information for you. That's, that's what we're here for. That's what my job is. So please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'm still trying to put my hands on that style guide. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm slow.
So obviously reach out to me or to myself or to Claire if you have any additional questions, but that's going to wrap up today's webinar. Next month, September's topic is beginning hydroponics. So we hope that you guys will join us then. Thank you all for attending. Claire's still looking, so I'll keep talking.
Yeah, there we go. There's one.
Okay, there's a link in the chat. Please do make sure to take that survey that's going to pop up when this presentation ends. We appreciate you sticking with us, and thank you for attending, and thanks for joining us. Claire put both of the links in there, and we appreciate you, and we hope to see you in September. Thanks so much, Claire.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.